Guys, the fluffy chat is over. The analysis is done. It's time now to pull this all together and work through who wins this game. Kia ora everyone, my name's Zach. I love rugby. Welcome back to Hakatime Rugby. So quick overview of how I'm going to present this information, guys. First thing, we need to talk about the selections. That's the final input into finalizing our analysis table, which is looking at who has the advantages in each of those key areas of the game. And then from that, I'm going to use that logic and start building out what are the keys to victory for each of these teams. What are the focus areas that England needs to do to implement in order to win this game? What are the focus areas that the Springboks need to implement in order to win this game? And that's going to really help us pull together the ideas around where the weaknesses can be counteracted and what the focus areas need to be for each of these teams. Then what I'm going to do, guys, is release another video straight after this part 4, which is going to be the prediction. And it's going to take all the logic that we've created, it's going to take that view of keys to victory, and it's going to answer the question, which factors are going to impact this game the most, and which team can implement their keys to victory to lift that World Cup trophy. All right, guys, a lot of detail to cover. I'm going to move quickly, so please keep up. Let's go. Okay, guys, let's get to the selections. You've probably already seen the team lists, but I'll cover it off very, very quickly. Both teams relatively settled. Good news on the injury front from England. Sinclair, Farrell, and also May are all playing and named in the squad. And also we get Ben Spencer coming into the squad. Now, I did highlight that there may be some continuity issues, but from what I've read on Ben Spencer, I must admit I haven't seen a lot of him, but he can be a potential game breaker in this. And I think having that additional variety off the bench, as well as that new energy and enthusiasm in a final, I think that could be really, really good for England. On the other side, Cheslin Kolbe comes back, and Springboks fans have got to be very, very happy with that. Now, I'm going to lay one point on the table, guys, right now, because it does have impact for my prediction of this match. Cheslin Kolbe is an outstanding runner, but I believe his contribution to this team will not be in regards to points. Now, you may see Cheslin Kolbe there and think, okay, we've got real opportunity for breaking tackles and also for scoring tries. I agree with the first part, breaking tackles. In terms of scoring tries, I'm going to make 1 point right off the bat. Traditionally, finals are wars of attrition. They are not high-scoring affairs. So when we get attacking dominance, usually the outcome is go-forward ball, right? He might be one player or two players, but generally the defense and the effort goes up. It means the scramble tacklers are there, and they'll normally shut down that third attempt. And I'm expecting that in this game. Not just with Cheslin Kolbe, but throughout. I am expecting a tight game here, and I am expecting that the major contribution Cheslin Kolbe will make will be in terms of go-forward ball. He may be one or two men, as I say, and be able to move the overall team forward. And in terms of his defense, right? So I'm expecting a lot of ball to go his way, both in terms of himself and to Willie LaRue, and the ability to cover those tactical kicks is going to be extremely important. His ability under the high ball is going to be tested, and his speed is going to be tested as part of that. So I don't think we need to touch on selections too much more, guys. I think they are relatively settled teams. There are minor tweaks. It doesn't ultimately change the strategy that I'm expecting the teams to implement. The next thing, guys, let's get our table out there, the final version of the Hakatime analysis table, the key areas. Here it is right here. Now let's go through it, guys. The first thing, preparation I've given to the Springboks. The reason I've explained it already. I do think that coming down from those highs of a semi-final against the All Blacks, particularly if that's been your focus for 2.5 years, and then changing tact and focus to a team like the Springboks, I think that is going to be a challenge, more of a challenge for England than it will be for Rassie and the Springboks. I also believe that those injury discussions that we've had, they have to play an impact here. Now, while guys may be fit and ready to play, there's got to be a little niggle there. Now, most players always carry niggles, but if there is an injury concern, the niggle is more than just that, right? So I do expect those two factors may mean that Rassie Erasmus has an easier time of preparing this team than Eddie Jones will. That's the first point. The second point in terms of strategy and plan B, as you know, I am a big advocate of Eddie Jones. I think he's a tactical genius, and I think he gets the edge here. And not just because he will implement or is better at implementing a strategy than Rassie Erasmus. Quite the contrary. I think what we've got here is a situation where Rassie Erasmus is very, very clear on his game plan. He's been clear to his players, he's implemented a strategy, and they are delivering on that strategy and executing on that strategy. They haven't deviated throughout this World Cup campaign, and I don't expect them to deviate here. What that means is Eddie Jones knows exactly what is coming. And for that reason, he can devise a game plan in order to counteract that. So that's why I'm saying the strategy advantage, particularly from a tactics perspective, it goes to England because they have more an opportunity to counteract what they know is coming, right? That's the first point. And that doesn't mean that they will get a tactical advantage there, because if the Springboks can effectively implement their game plan, they're going to do very, very well here, is my opinion. I actually think the strategy the Springboks are delivering on and will deliver is tailor-made for a final, guys. I think it is the right approach and the right skill sets in order to win a World Cup final. However, strategically, Eddie Jones has an opportunity, knowing what is coming, to counteract that. And that's why I give the advantage both in terms of the game strategy and plan B, because the other thing, we've seen a lot more variety from the English team in terms of attack. I give that edge to England. Let's move to the platform, guys. This is going to be a hotly contested area. Now, we did name the scrum as an even keel. I do think if there's any level of dominance here, it'll be on the side of the Springboks, given their physicality and their strength. That could come to play. Now, the line-out we said was the Springboks. And I think the line-out is going to be a crucial area of this game, guys. I think the dominance that the Springboks have in the line-out is going to really play a part as we walk through the rest of this discussion. So we'll come back to that one. The more we go to the Springboks, I think that's true, right? They've looked very, very strong in their attacking raids with the maul, and it builds off the great platform that they typically get from that line-out. Those two things go hand in hand typically. So the advantage there to the Springboks. The breakdown we've seen is even because it is going to be hotly contested. It's going to come down to the ability to steal and win ball, which is really that speed and strength that that guys like Underhill, Curry, and Itoje bring, versus the power and fetching ability of guys like Peter Steph-Totoy and Dwayne Vermeulen. Obviously, there are some skill sets there, guys, but this is going to be a hotly contested area. I think it's one of the keys to victory, and I'm going to break down who I think dominates in this area as we progress through. Next one, game management is a clean sweep for England. Now, I'm going to tell you why, guys. Generalship, firstly, is the ability for key players to put their team in the right place at the right time. It's not leadership, and I've had a few discussions in the comment section on this. It's not specifically leadership. It's leadership, it's clear decision-making, and it is ability to execute on those outcomes. Tactical kicking and excellence in tactical kicking is an output of generalship, typically. A 10 can be a general, a 9 can be a general, a forward pack leader can be a general. So the generalship I give in the hands of England, because I do think their ability to execute on their strategy has been very, very good. Conversely, and this is touching on tactical kicking as well, I think, unfortunately, Faf de Klerk has been mixed in his results in the lead up to this final. He has been a lot better. I was very, very impressed in that game against Wales, because not only was he putting the ball in the correct places, but there were times where he was adding variety to his kicks. He had a number of times where he went sideline, put the ball down into space, and was able to chase and force the ball into touch, meaning that it was winning positions for the Springboks. So territory gain due to variety in that kicking game. I was very, very impressed with that. And I was very, very impressed that the Springboks were able to really lift their game in terms of tactical kicking, particularly from Faf de Klerk, right? Very, very good. But we know on the other side of the coin that a guy like George Ford has an expert boot on him. He knows how to pinpoint into space. He knows how to target certain players, and that's going to play a factor here, guys. It's a very, very important point that we will touch on in the future. The next one, scoreboard pressure. I've given that to England. The reason is I've seen 3 examples, and I've watched back some games on where the Springboks have had a level of dominance but just haven't been able to convert that into points. One example against the All Blacks, the first 20 minutes, they were very, very physical and very, very dominant, and unfortunately only came away with 3 points. Against Japan, first half, 5 points to 3, right? 2 missed kicks, so it should have been 10 points to 3. That's a far better outcome for dominance. I also looked at that game from Wellington. The first half there, the Springboks were very, very dominant, and they still didn't come away with points, guys. So that has got to be a very, very important concern for the Springboks team. Now, again, the Wales game, they showed that they can be very accurate in scoring points and get just rewards for those efforts. So It's certainly an improving position for the Springboks team, but on the balance of things, I've been very impressed with England's ability to score rapidly and score early, right? That's been a key part, is that they have put points on the board early in games to put scoreboard pressure on teams, guys. And the more you accumulate points, the greater the pressure, the more likely teams are going to crack. So I've given game management in full to England. Now we need to move to defense, and I've made a couple of changes here, guys. Firstly, the rucks, right? Sorry, we haven't changed the ruck. That's for the Springboks. That hasn't changed. Defense in and around the ruck we expect to be strong for the Springboks. From a backline perspective, though, I do think there is some real attacking strength here from the Manu Tuilangi, Owen Farrell channel. So I've reversed this slightly and given the edge to England there. Part of the reason is that the ball is typically being kicked by the Springboks at the moment, as opposed to really igniting that backline. I do think if Rassie chooses to ignite the backline, I doubt it'll happen, but they could have a lot more success in this game. And for that reason, the edge goes to England. Next one, effort, physicality, without a doubt, that is the Springboks. And that's going to play a big role in this game, guys. Not only during the first 50, 60, 70 minutes, but also at the death. Once the changes start getting rung somewhere around that 45 to 50, 60 minute mark, the physicality does not relent. These guys are going to come in for everything. So physicality edge, without a doubt. Ability to win the collision is going to go to the Springboks. Next, in terms of attack, we've made one change here. So the forwards remains the same, but from a backline perspective, I've flipped that around. And I've watched a number of these games, and I went back and watched a lot of the games this week of where the Springboks have conceded tries this year. And unfortunately, a number of them have come down that wing centre channel, right? And we know that these guys are strong in that area. So I've given the backline attack to England, and the variety in attack goes with England as well, because they're a lot more likely to mix up the options of kick, pass, run. We have seen it in this World Cup. We've seen it before this World Cup. Conversely, from the Springboks, they have been determined to implement the same strategy, which is a kick for territory approach and take opportunities when they're available in attack. So that's the summary, guys. And it may have sounded like I put a significant weighting there on England. I don't believe that's true. I think if you look at this table, what it demonstrates is that this is going to come down to the platform that I expect the Springboks to build and their ability to build points on the base of that platform versus the game management of England. Ultimately, that is what this game is going to come down to. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the keys to victory for both teams. And then we're going to wrap this up, guys. Okay, guys, we need to touch on some other important factors. So let's start with the weather. The weather is predicted to have some rain throughout the game period, although it's forecast to be hit and miss. If it does rain, and does rain quite heavily, obviously that'll impact ball handling. It'll change the composure of this game. I think if there is rain, it will favour the Springboks because of the strategy that we know that they are going to come with. The next factor I want to touch on is the referees, guys. So we know who it is. It's Jerome Garces, and his style. He likes to over police the breakdown, and he tends to give away a lot of penalties. Now, I never think that referees really favour one team or another. Some people will probably disagree with that and say that the All Blacks always get the run of the green. Maybe they do, I don't know. But I expect Jerome Garces to be pretty down the line here and to be consistent with his approach. It'll really come down to which team adapts to his approach better. Now, the Springboks had him in the semi-final. Does that give them any advantage? I don't think it gives England any disadvantage. Obviously, Eddie Jones will know exactly how to prepare for someone like Garces, and the teams are familiar with him as well. So I don't think there's any particular advantage from Garces. What I am concerned about, though, is the TMO, Mr. Ben Skeen. He's a Kiwi, much like me. He's an analytical guy, much like me, but not in a way that adds value, guys. In a way that slows down the game. So I am concerned about this guy. And really, when I've watched his performances through this World Cup, what I noticed is that he must spend his time analysing the footage over and over again and looking for problems. And I'm telling you, if you are looking for problems, you will always find them, guys. Somewhere down the bottom of the ruck, if you zoom in and put it in slow motion, you will find contact with the head. It could be someone's fingertip touching the face or something like that, but you will always find it, guys. If you're looking for problems, you will find it. I don't think that will favour any particular team, because I do think these two teams in particular have been very, very disciplined throughout this Rugby World Cup. but you never know. It could be a lazy tackle, it could be a stray arm, but I don't think there'll be any intentional issues here, but you never know. And I don't want this guy to impact the game. Ultimately, I don't think he will, because it's a massive call. It's a huge call to stop a game. And referees are under pressure as well, remember, guys, in the final. It's a huge call to make a bad decision in a game. Human nature, I think they will err on the side of caution. So he may not be a huge issue here. Let's hope for that. Finally, the bench, guys. Who has the strength in the bench? I believe the Springboks have the strength in the bench. One, because their bench supports their game style. It means that there is physicality throughout the game from the first minute to the 82nd, 83rd minute if required. They can roll on those subs, and they will essentially, they may be even a little bit improved from a ball fetching ability perspective. Let's see. But also they've got a bit of game breakers off the bench there, like Herschel and Francois Steyn from a Francois Steyn, his ability to goal kick at long range, it could play a part here. We've seen the need for drop goals, from distance if required. So his ability with that boot, it could be a factor here as well, guys. So next thing what we do, guys, is we take our table, who has the advantages, and we put it in the context of both England and South Africa. What are the keys to victory? What are the key focus areas? Let's start with England. So what I've said here, guys, preparation is key. So what they have to do is focus and make sure injuries they get right, and make sure the mental side they get right. You can't win a game with good preparation, but you can lose a game with bad preparation, guys. That's a risk that they'll need to manage. We know that one of their great strengths is Eddie Jones as a master tactician. And as I mentioned, it could play a role because we know what Rassie Erasmus and the Springboks are going to implement. That doesn't mean you can stop it, but at least there is a slight advantage there for Eddie Jones to prepare for that. That's very, very crucial. The line-out is going to be a massive area of concern for England, guys. So they have to try and get parity in the line-outs. If they don't, and they're getting disrupted and getting balls stolen, and we have seen a few line-outs go the other way, I noticed in that All Blacks game in particular. So the line-outs are going to be crucial. It's important that the English team can look to get parity there. The breakdown. Now, this is going to be hotly contested. A lot of this is going to come down to the interpretation of the referee, but they have to win the physical battle, guys. Rugby is a very, very simple game. The team that goes forward normally wins the game, and that's why I believe platform is so crucial to this game. We know what's coming. It's Curry, Underhill, Itoje versus Vermeulen, Peter Steph Toy, as well as Kolisi, as well as others in there, the Beast. These are physical guys, so it's going to be a physicality game versus the ability for England to match that physicality and also to steal and win some ball where they can. Now, other things, game management, I said is going to be a real strength of this English team. Tactical kicking, the ability to build scoreboard pressure, very, very important. Next thing, the back line. Now, I did some research on some of the games this year from a Springboks perspective, as I said, and there is some opportunities out wide there, guys. Can they use their attack effectively? Will they use their attack effectively? As I said, finals are wars of attrition, guys. Traditionally, very few tries are scored, so attack becomes more about front foot ball and the ability to break over the line to try and force referees into a decision to gain momentum, more so than actual line breaks and scoring of tries. That's going to be interesting. They have to match the physicality, guys. Not only in the platform is it important to be physical, but in the collision. And again, it's another opportunity for teams to either move forward or move back. So England needs to focus on that ability to win that collision. And finally, strengths there in terms of backline and variety. So the key questions are very, very clear. The keys to victory are very, very clear for England. They need to prepare well. They need to challenge in the line-out. They need to try and get parity and win the breakdown. They need to match the physicality, and then they need to convert points and maintain scoreboard pressure. What I would also like to say is, from an England perspective, they have tended to be fast starters. They definitely want to start fast. If they can do that, they can put real scoreboard pressure on, and it's a tough hill to climb. I actually don't think that the Springboks can chase a big lead. I don't think they're geared towards that, particularly in a final. So if you start to leak a couple of tries, it's a long, especially early, it's a long day ahead, guys. So that's got to be a key focus for them. Start fast, accumulate points, and put pressure on the opposition. Also win territory, that's going to be a key one. I think there is going to be a lot of ball coming down the way of Willie le Roux, and also Cheslin Kolbe is going to field a lot of ball. So let's see, but those are the keys to victory that I am seeing for England. Finally, keys to victory for South Africa. Now, you might be surprised, but I am highlighting game strategy as an advantage for the Springboks. I like what they are doing. I like what Rassie Erasmus is doing. It's not pretty rugby. We saw that in the semi-final, but it is effective for winning finals. And no better time to have that kind of game strategy than right now. Not only that, but Rassie has been very, very clear on a singular strategy. Everything he is doing is supporting that. He's throwing everything at it. And for that reason, guys, I really think they can get on top from a physicality perspective. And I actually think game strategy is a big strength for the Springboks. The next thing, I put preparation as a neutral. The reason is it could end up being quite an advantage for them. If England have played their final early, it works into the hands of South Africa. Now, I've focused on the platform here in terms of their strengths. I expect they will get forward dominance, guys. But can they win the breakdown? These guys, England was very, very good in the collision, both in that game against the All Blacks and other games that we've seen, particularly against Argentina as well, for example. They're able to match the physicality there. But can they match the physicality against this box pack? I'm not sure that they can. So, as I mentioned, the breakdown is going to be such a battle, a fascinating watch, and it's going to be interesting to see what wins out. Is it speed, mobility, and technique, let's say, from England, or is it physicality and technique from the Springboks? I've got my own opinions on this, guys, and that'll be part of my final assessment here. The next thing, game management. Guys, this is going to be crucial, right? Faf de Klerk, I think there's two key players in this game for the Springboks. One is Faf de Klerk. The second is Willie le Roux, and I'm going to tell you right now why. Faf, as I said, a mixed bag in terms of his kicks, but certainly an improvement against Wales, and good variety, I thought, in mixing up kicks infield and kicks along the touchline. The blindside kicks were required. Good variety. I really, really like that. And got them forward in terms of territory. But can he be consistent in this game targeting space? Can he do more than just a 15-metre kick forward, and rely on his defence to try and win the ball back? Will he have effective chases? Because that's another thing that can improve a bad kick, is good chasing. Cheslin Kolbe is back, and that's going to go a long way to putting pressure on that chase. I like that. I like Cheslin because of that reason, but Faf really needs to step up. The other thing is if Rassie Erasmus says to Faf, I want you to run a little bit more in key areas. If he loosens the leash a little bit there, then it could be a good outcome for South Africa. Will he do it? Will he not? At the moment, we have not seen enough evidence to suggest he will, but I think that could be a key to victory. I just looked back at that semi-final, and it looked like both teams were trying not to lose, as opposed to England, who were really there trying to snatch victory off the All Blacks. If the leash is released a little bit and if Faf is able to run, he could put some real pressure on this England team. So let's see. Scoreboard pressure. Now, as I mentioned, Andre Pollard, the importance of scoring points when they are on offer, he has to do it, and he has to do it effectively. If he doesn't, then it could be a long night. If you're chasing a lead, I don't think the Springboks team have the ability to chase down that lead. So let's move forward. In terms of backline defence, can they contain Manu Tuilagi, or can they beat the outside defence as well? Let's see. That's going to be an interesting area of focus, and the physicality in terms of defence, and the other point in terms of backline defence. So why did I highlight Willie le Roux in terms of one of the key players here? So put it this way. As Sun Tzu would say, in the art of war, attack what is weak, avoid what is strong, right? So I expect that the accuracy and tactical kicking of George Ford is going to be directed at a guy who's been slightly down on confidence and has had some handling errors along the way. They're going to target Willie le Roux, guys. They're going to target Willie for sure. There's going to be space in and around Willie, and they're going to kick his way. If they do that, is he good enough? That's going to be a key question here, guys. I really think this victory for the Springboks will come down to Faf, and it will come down to Willie. I really believe that to be true. Let's see. Finally, in terms of variety, as I say, one of the keys here, if they can release the backline, then I think they can be successful. So those are the keys to victory for South Africa. They must stay tough, hang tough with England. If England gets a fast start, they have to stay with them. Play the territory, right? Tactical kicking is going to be so important. It is so important that Faf has a good game. Can he be consistent? That's going to be one of the key questions in this game. Andre Pollard, he needs to be accurate with the kicking. I've said that already. The breakdown, they must compete with England. I've said that already. And then from a backline perspective, they must contain Manu Tuilangi and they must look to beat the rush defence. Is going to be another key to victory. Okay, guys, I've rambled on and I've brain dumped on you. That is all of the details, all of the key factors, all of the important points that I can see in this game. I've also outlined the critical points to victory for each of these teams. The question is going to be, given all that logic, who is more likely to implement a winning game plan over the other? I'm going to answer that in part 4, guys. It's going to come shortly behind this video, maybe a few hours, but I'm going to give my final prediction. I'm going to give you all of the logic of why, and we're going to choose the winner, guys. We're going to choose the winner very, very soon. So come back for part 4. Let's close this all out, and then let's look forward to the Rugby World Cup final. I can't wait. I'm excited, and I'll see you guys soon.